members, and I'm not on the committee, but we got to have a conversation about teaching each other about each other's culture. And so Alderman Hall put the picture up first, but I actually printed it. And if you see, this is a picture of Harold Washington, who was the first Black mayor of the city. He built a rainbow coalition.
Alderwoman Taylor,
Yes.
direct it to me, please.
I just want people to see the picture.
I'm-
So I'm assuming you
The
can see
oldest
it.
guy in the council. I'm very familiar with that.
Absolutely. So imagine as a Black child seeing the Black man who built a rainbow coalition to bring us this city together being displayed in an art exhibit like this.
Caution, there is sensitive graphics and speech occurring in this cultural meeting at Chicago City Hall. As the public speakers provide their facts, opinions, and feelings on the topic of a puppetry artwork on display, you will witness the behaviors of both aldermen and community speakers. Let's begin.
Speaker now is Jane, but on deck, I'm not sure if this is the person that's speaking or she's representing or he. It says representing Mara Walkoff. Are you the speaker or are you representing? Speaking? Okay, all right. So you'll be on deck. Jane Charney, you're up right now, followed by Sarah Von Loon, and then Mara Walkoff.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jane Charney from the Jewish United Fund. We're a network of social service agencies serving 500,000 Chicagoans of all faith and the convener of Chicago's Jewish community, 325,000 people, 40% of whom live in the city of Chicago. As you know, over the past decade, anti-Semitism has surged in America. Jewish people are 2.4% of the US population, and yet more than 60% of religiously based hate crimes in the United States are perpetrated against Jews.
A lot of the work that AJC does is to educate others on what anti-Semitism is and the harms that it causes our community. You heard from my community member, Jane, just how prevalent rising anti-Semitism is in America, and I'm here to tell you it has only gotten worse and explicitly worse in the city of Chicago.
Next on deck is
I'm appalled to
hold on.
see. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Blakemore, you're not up. Mara's up next. Okay, all right, hold on. You're not up next. Yes, that's Alderwoman.
Waiting downstairs to be sent up here to sit in the gallery, and I'm wondering what the holdup is for them to be allowed, and can we wait for them to come in?
Ask the lieutenant.
Can we recess for a few minutes until they are allowed up?
Recess for a few minutes. As they're dribbling up, does anybody know? Sergeant at Arms, do you know what's going on with people trying to get up here by chance? Does the lieutenant know what's going on? They're still checking people out and they're letting them in. So I've been seeing people walk in here, so they're still letting people in.
Some of those people want to speak for public comment and they're being delayed.
First of all, it's too late for public comment. Nobody else could sign up for public comment. We have 30 speakers. I'm allowing 30 people to talk. I'm not going to take another 5 or 10 or 20. So public comment is over with. Now, whether they come in here to still observe, that's fine. But nobody else is going to sign up for public comment. Okay? I'm sorry. I mean, no chairman lets 30 people talk. Okay? So I'm letting 30 people talk. So Mara, you're up, followed by George Blakemore, followed by Ron Onesti.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Mara Wolkoff. I live in the 4th Ward, and I work in the Jewish community here in Chicago. I'm here today to talk about the U.S.-Israel war machine puppet, which does not depict blood libel, as previously shared. It draws attention to United States tax dollars funding state violence internationally and depicting Netanyahu, a specific state leader. To hear that there has been such an uproar about this puppet is shocking and honestly a waste of everyone here's time.
Folks, all right, people, all right, listen, we're asking people to keep it down. So far, you've been excellent, very polite, so please, no yelling, no clicking your fingers, no booing, all right? Let's just try to get through this. It's going to be a lot of public comment. We didn't cut anybody off. Unfortunately, I had to give you 2 minutes, but still, we got like 30 speakers here, okay? So next up right now is George Blakemore, followed by Ron Onesti, and next up after that is Dan Goldwyn.
I'm appalled to see that this place is packed with white folk. White folk. Some call themselves Jews and some call themselves Arabs. All of that is Africa. All of it belongs to the black man. When he went to Europe, uh, he considered these people, you all, barbarians. He brought art. Now you all are politicalizing art. Now, remember, all of that from that Tigris Euphrates River, all of that is Africa. You didn't know that? If you did, you acting like you didn't. So they're politicalizing the art. So the history, world history, the Black History Month, everything began in Africa, a rich continent, a rich people, a civilized people. The African people never went and killed and maimed and havoc people. So I'm appalled to come down here to see you all politicalizing the arts. Some people said that I'm an artist. Everything begins with the arts. Now, where are the black people today? What month is this? The shortest month of the year, Black History Month. We have gold, we have everything in Africa. And the African people are civilized people. They never had the Holocaust or go to another country and enslave people, kill people, incarcerate people. So welcome to America. Now, how many of you, click all you want, how many of you came to America on slave ships? How many?
Thank you, sir. All right. Next on deck, next. Mr. Blakemore, please. Mr. Blakemore, please.
Good morning. I'm Ron Onesti, President of the Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans, the Congress of over 50 Italian American organizations in the city and around the city of Chicago. We're here to, number one, say that we're definitely not in favor of anything anti-Semitic. We do support our Jewish brothers and sisters, and not to equate our situation with what's going on right now. When we have our Columbus issue, we bring that up where government got involved, taking down statues without meetings, without committee meetings, without contacting our community. There's no place for that, just like what's happening now where government gets involved. The fact of the matter is, Voltaire said in the 1700s, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll fight to the death your ability to say it. There should be no government involved with regards to positive imaging and messaging for communities. And we're in support of giving positive imaging and positive messaging. So what's going on today with our Jewish brothers and sisters, no matter what side you are on, the important thing is that we come together and we come to an agreement on what needs to be said and how it needs to be said, and bottom line, to respect each other's ability to say it and respect the message and respect what it means to those people who are there fighting.
My name is Bill Cheslovsky. I've been a resident for 30 years. I appreciate this opportunity. Echoing what the last speaker said, to each alderman here, if a puppet was put up depicting one of you with blood on your hands, caricatured, with scenes of Chicago crime, I would be here protesting that. If a puppet was put up of Palestinians displayed as savages, bloodthirsty people, I would be in front of this microphone objecting. 3 words should not be spoken here today, and I don't need my fancy Harvard Law School degree to know it. First Amendment, that's 2 words, and censorship. Utterly inapplicable, a red herring, a head fake. Just as the 2 puppets I described would never be displayed. It's about discretion. So somebody should own this and should say, yeah, if a caricatured puppet of the mayor was presented with blood on his hands showing that he's racist or something, we'd gladly accept that as well. So this is hypocrisy on display. It is not a First Amendment issue. It should have never been put up. The person who put it up had discretion to put it up. They weren't required by the First Amendment to put it up, and they have discretion to take it down. So you should exercise your voice and say whether this is a good example of the culture in Chicago or not. Walk tall, be present. Thank you.
History repeats itself, first by tragedy, second by farce. The McCarthy era constituted a tragedy, a civic tragedy in which countless Americans suffered defamation and had their lives destroyed over so-called anti-Americanism. Here we are today. Because Chicago values have been invoked in this discussion, I thank my Alderman Nicole Lee for her vote for the ceasefire resolution last year. This sent a clear message to the world of what Chicago values are. But I'm also here today to express the deep concern I felt seeing my alderman sign this letter calling for the removal of artwork and denouncing it as anti-American.
And B. Wilson is up.
Hello, my name is B. I am a Jewish Chicagoan, and I am here to say that you have heard from several voices in this public comments, as well as Alderwoman Silverstein claiming to speak for all Jews in Chicago. And I want to say very loud and clear, they do not.
A reminder, everybody, and thanks for your civility. I really appreciate it. Direct all your questions to me or your anger or whatever. It's my meeting. I'm the chairman. So next on deck, Myra Sue, SU, current speaker, Andrew.
Hello. This art installation should not be removed. As a Jewish resident of Chicago, I feel it is important not to suppress and censor the voices of marginalized people in our community. The art in the exhibit is not anti-Semitic, and its purpose is to stop violence and hate.
My name's Rory Corsi. I'm a resident of the 49. I think that some of the comments here today may give the impression that the puppets in question were bloody and labeled Jews or labeled Israel even. But instead, as I'm sure most of you have seen the pictures, it was labeled Netanyahu, a specific government leader, as well as Uncle Sam, as a way to critique both the Israeli and the U.S. Funding of the bombing campaign in Gaza that has created the largest population of child amputees in modern history. I think bloody hands are a pretty reasonable representation of that, but you might not. Ultimately, that's not the question today. The question is who gets to make the decisions at the cultural center? Do we want the city council individually going through art projects, deciding this is appropriate or this isn't? We're going to get a lot more of the creeping. I know that you don't like that we're using this word censorship over the next 4 years from the government, both officially and very blatantly in terms of arrests, but also in choking off funding for expression that might not be exactly appropriate. Chicago should stand up to that. Chicago should reject that and say that we accept art in this community, even if not everyone likes it. Not everyone is going to like every exhibition, and that is okay because Chicago has room for everyone.
Thank you. All right. Next on deck is Jackie Linden, current speaker, Myra Sue.
I'm here not only today as an artist, but also as a concerned Chicago resident. First and foremost, we need to get this out of the way. The art piece in question is an anti-war art piece. It is part of a long history of using protest puppets as a call to action. As puppet artists, we are very much part of the grassroots DIY art making scene. And so to silence a piece of art like this is very much an attack on free speech and the people. It is very telling that the artwork has been called anti-American in its petition for removal. And so I ask you this, yeah, so what if it is anti-American? Is that a legitimate grounds for removal? Or are we not allowed to express any discontentment for the government? Let's be real here. The accusations lobbied against the artwork isn't really about anti-Semitism. It's about silencing work that does not share the same political alignment. We must recognize that hate speech and political dissent are two very different things. And the fact we are even here today demonstrates just how important this artwork is, as it reveals the troubling state of our democracy today. If this committee chooses to acquiesce to these, quite frankly, dangerous demands to remove the artwork from the exhibit, you are complicit in eroding free expression and speech. What kind of precedent are you setting going forward? In these divisive times, art and dialogue is precisely what we need right now. And so what good will come from silencing artists? And what good has ever come from silencing artists? Thank you.
Thank you. Next on deck is Jimmy Rothschild, current speaker, Carl Wallstrom.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. I'm here because I'm an artist and an educator. I work full-time in the arts here in Chicago and work as an educator in the summer. I'm also here because I went to see an artwork at the Cultural Center the other day and was moved by what I saw. The city of Chicago is famous worldwide for the labor movements that were born here. Many of the labor laws and other rights we have today came as a result of brave Chicagoans standing up for what's right. When I saw protest art on display, clearly meant to be seen in a crowd, clearly meant to be impactful, I felt emotional, proud to be part of this historic city, proud to be able to protest, proud to live in a place where criticizing the government is a right and doesn't come with unjust consequences.
That sounds good. Actually, there are a couple artists that would prefer that I introduce them.
Okay, all right, well, do you know everybody in there then? You can introduce
Pretty
everybody
much,
if you want.
yes. Okay. Thank you, Chairman and esteemed council members. My name is Clinae Hedspeth, and I serve as the Commissioner for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. Just as some level setting, DK's Visual Arts Exhibition Program. Status of a non-commercial public entity encourage artists to take risk and connect to a broad audience. We are proud to serve a uniquely diverse public that may not otherwise encounter this kind of high-quality, experimental, community-oriented, and welcoming exhibitions that they can find at the Chicago Cultural Center. Ultimately, DK's exhibition program aims to support a healthy citywide arts ecosystem where artists, curators, and art appreciators can thrive in Chicago. The goals of the exhibition program are to support Chicago artists to advance their careers through exhibition opportunities, position the Chicago Cultural Center as a hub for excellent, accessible, and engaging exhibitions for the public, create intersections between Chicago artists and national and international arts communities.
That made this artwork that we're talking about.
So let me ask you a question. Are these, I think the question should go to the commissioner.
Okay,
or-
I'm sorry.
Okay, and then if she can't, then she'll have to defer to her people in the backs.
It was a collective of artists, a group of them, and then I will pass this on to Abby, who is one of the artists, to discuss that.
Hello, my name is Abby, and I'm the artist who represents the Sunshine Puppeteers. We are the artists who made the U.S.-Israel war machine. We are not afraid to be seen. Our piece is an artistic criticism of the U.S.'s financial backing.
Excuse me, I didn't ask for that. I wanted to know why the name was not listed of all of the art pieces.
Because our plaque was taken down.
No, it was not on the placard either. And I'm asking you the questions, and I would appreciate it if you would answer my questions, Commissioner.
I'll answer for my
That's the only exhibit that didn't have an artist's name on it. So could you explain why?
She's answering a question.
That was an oversight. And because it said just the artist collective, that's why, one of the reasons why the panel was taken down immediately.
Who wrote the placard?
Oh, we have a point of information from Alderman Hall. Is it a point of information or is
Yes.
it a question?
I just want to learn your format to your meeting. You said that when asking questions, we ask the commissioner. If she can't answer it, that's what the panel is for, correct? I just want to
Correct,
understand.
yes.
Okay. So in this situation, she just answered a question per your format. Are we sticking to that, or is it just split?
If you have a question,
I just
direct it
wanna know.
towards her. If
Okay.
it needs to defer to her people in the back, she could defer to them.
Okay, I just want to know.
If you have multiple questions, yes, Alderwoman Nugent.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I do believe you have discretion, though, of course, to run the meeting as you see fit.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Trying to accommodate everybody, folks, okay? I know this is a contentious meeting. Once again, we'll let everybody speak, so. Alderwoman Silverstein, proceed, please.
Yes, could you tell me who wrote the placard that was originally posted on the wall?
It's a combination between the collective, the artists, and I believe the curator.
Mhm. Was that placard fact-checked before being placed on the wall?
Elise, I believe that it was part of their curatorial experience and prerogative to change and put things at the end. So when it's installed, we usually do a walkthrough. I personally didn't see that. Again, when it was brought to my attention, it was taken down.
Because, just so you know, the information that was on that placard was provided by the Hamas-run Gaza Ministry of Health. So was that placard removed?
Sergeant at Arms, can you please ask these people to behave? Otherwise, ask them to leave.
Was removing the death count and admission that this does not belong in the taxpayer-funded space?
No, it was not.
So
It was
why did you
removed
take?
Because it didn't meet basic criteria for any type of object label.
Mhm. And you removed the placard, but the puppet exhibit itself met that criteria? Is that what you're saying?
Those are
You were
two-
able to take one part of the exhibit down, but not the rest of it?
Correct. When there's controversial art that goes up, there is a process that is then moved in place. These are deep practices, and that's why I didn't take it down.
And what are those? Could you?
Yes, I will defer to Tamar, who also has worked at the Smithsonian and has various knowledge of what is done at that point.
Identify yourself, please.
I am Tamar Vangelis Theodority, the Deputy Commissioner for Visual Arts. And I want to say that I'm not speaking on behalf of the Smithsonian, but in my capacity of having worked as Director of the Smithsonian Libraries and Archives. At the Smithsonian, we did have a process, Smithsonian Directive Number 603, which looked at exhibits that could have potentially sensitive content in it. We always believed in freedom of expression, diversity of perspectives in that. Once an artwork goes up, we never take it down. There is a reflective, deliberative process around having a dialogue around that. We do believe in putting up sensitive content notes around that, and that is also an inclusive process.
Commissioner, if somebody submitted a puppet of Mayor Johnson with his hands covered in blood protesting the removal of ShotSpotter, would that be displayed?
Did it go through the process?
If it went through the process, yes. Yeah. If it went through the process, yeah.
Would
I mean, I'm
trust- I
trying to
would trust-
understand the process.
I would trust that the team and that the experts, external experts that go through extensive training and the different objective ways of critiquing art, that by the time it arrives to an approval process, that it would have satisfied many of those requirements.
But this other one does.
It did.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Okay. I'd like to know what, if you have any notes on that or of the process, I'd really like to see that.
I mean,
I
we will,
I don't understand the real difference between displaying that than this.
the process
Yeah,
itself.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why you would say that that one maybe wouldn't go up, as we all know it wouldn't, and this one did. So I'm
That's not
trying
what
to
I
understand the
said.
difference.
What I'm saying is that it would go through the process, the actual vetting process that the department has in place.
Let's keep
The
it
outcome
talking
of
about.
that, I don't know what that would be.
I have a question for you. So, there is a movie about October 7th. There's a film. Would you, as the DK's commissioner, sponsor and pay for that movie to be shown at the Chicago Cultural Center?
Alderwoman, with all due respect, we're talking about something specific, not
No.
about what ifs, okay?
No. There is, why wouldn't this? That is I'm sorry, that's freedom of expression. And I would like to know if we're allowed to present something like that at the Chicago Cultural Center.
If it was proposed, it would go through the vetting process.
Okay. And what about, there's a Nova Music Festival exhibit that has been touring the country. It was in Miami, it was in New York, and we'd like a home for that here in Chicago. Would the Cultural Center agree to host that exhibit in Chicago?
It would be proposed and would go through the vetting process.
So how do we propose that? Because I would like to propose it and have it go through the vetting process
On the
and see what
website,
happens.
on the website, there is an area where you can go to, and we encourage all artists to go there and fill out the necessary documentation and start the vetting process.
Okay, so we will start that. I'm going to let some of my other colleagues ask some questions. I don't want to
Okay, thank you.
dominate this, but I just want to make one other comment before I pass this along. I think, Commissioner, that you need to improve your communication. I've left several messages for you. I've gotten several phone calls from the chairman calling me and saying, "Did you talk to her?" And I would say, "No, she did not call." 2, 3 times, Chairman Spizzato called me and said, "Have you spoken to the commissioner?" And the answer was no. And so I think that you need to improve your communications. And when people, aldermen, call you with questions and concerns, you should quickly return their phone call.
I did return your phone calls, and
No, you did
I
not.
sent 2 emails.
I spoke to you one time,
And I sent 2
Commissioner,
emails, and I
I
called you back.
multiple
Okay, all
times,
right,
and you
folks,
did not
I-
return my
all
phone
right.
call. That
Lady,
is not
I
right,
left
correct.
an email asking you to
I
speak
believe-
with
We
the
can talk
curator
about
and the
this
artist.
later.
I
but
believe we have it straight now, okay.
I do
Let-
want to say something on.
Okay, yes, Commissioner.
I did. I absolutely returned your call. Before I was leaving out of town, I went into the cultural center and noticed what did not meet the basic requirements that you even pointed out. Names, fact checking, that wasn't there. I had it removed immediately.
Commissioner,
Then I sent an email asking if you would meet with the artist and the curator and with the organization that you're working with. You did not respond. I
Commissioner,
sent it in
I left-
writing, and then after talking to the curator and the artist and
All right.
telling them, would you be open to meeting with them and
Lady,
exploring the
you
possibilities?
two
I
can
You
agree.
take,
did not
You-
respond
all
to
right,
that
that's
email.
enough, that's
offline.
enough. You two take this up in private, okay? All right? That, we're not gonna get into a disagreement about who called, when didn't call, all right? So,
And let the curator speak, let the artists speak, the ones that did it, all these
all right,
questions.
Commissioner, right, moving forward. All right, obviously, we're gonna have to limit people on their time, okay? As much as I hate to do that. 10 minutes, I got a clock going over here, okay? We'll go through as many rounds as we need to. Next committee member to speak. Oh, okay, moving on. Alderman Conway, if you could keep it to 10 minutes.
Yep, I will
So
indeed.
just to let everybody know, if you get a long-winded answer for your question, that's part of your 10 minutes, okay? So,
I will keep my, I will keep
No,
my
we can't
questions,
control your answers, but-
tight and tight and thing. And to frame those questions, I would say, first, I do want to thank you, Commissioner Hedspeth, for being here today. Unlike Dorval Carter, the Board of Education, who have chosen to ignore this body in the past, I appreciate that you have showed up, and that matters, and I appreciate it. I am honored to have the Cultural Center in the 34th Ward, but with that honor comes a responsibility. And a responsibility to ensure the taxpayer-funded spaces reflect our values. And there is a fundamental distinction between free speech and expression and hate speech and expression. And this exhibit just crosses that line, and especially at a time when the Jewish community is facing an increase in anti-Semitic incidents and threats and fear. I mean, the imagery in question blatantly perpetuates an age-old dangerous trope of Jewish people as greedy, money-driven puppeteers of world events. And at this point, when we're staring down a projected $1.1 billion budget deficit in 2026, and we find our tax dollars are funding this, we have to ask some questions about the process. Now, I know there's been some discussions about the law, and I've been blessed to be a lawyer in this state for 18 years, but I would point out the case that's clearly on point is NEA versus Finley, a 1988 Supreme Court case that held that while the First Amendment limits government's ability to limit speech, it does not require us to fund hate speech and expression, which is what, of course, differentiates this from the picture of Harold Washington that Alderman Hall pointed out. Now, no one disputes that people have the right to, First Amendment right to burn flags or even display swastikas in their private homes. But when hateful imagery finds its way into taxpayer-funded art, it becomes our responsibility to act. And this is not about censorship, but it's about accountability of tax dollars. So with that end, I would ask, I may have misunderstood this in your opening statement, Commissioner, but did you say that the Cultural Center was a non-public entity?
No, it is a public entity.
Okay, I thought I may have misheard that.
Any, our basic guidelines and requirements. And and the
okay,
request was to
yeah.
also then for the curator to create another one.
So you said that you removed it because this is an opinion piece. Are you saying that Jewish people are greedy, money-driven puppeteers is a fact? Is a
All right,
fact?
that's it. Trope. All right, he's got to go. He's got to go. Time out.
I assume you're not, but are you saying that that's a fact?
What is a fact?
Are you saying that Jewish people are greedy, money-driven puppeteers?
where-
You chose to remove the panel, and you
You're
chose
talking
not
about
to
a
remove-
panel or are you talking about the art piece?
Well, you said you chose to remove the panel because you think it's an opinion
Yes.
piece. I, of course, would counter that the puppet itself is an opinion piece. but
No, there is
chose
a,
to
there
keep
is
it.
a, there is a, first of all, I never said anything like that at all.
You didn't say that the panel was an opinion piece? You just said.
No,
because
but you
it's an
said,
opinion
you said
piece.
something, what else you said? That I said that Jews are what? No, I never said anything like that.
Well, you
The
have.
panel
chosen to-
piece and the art are two separate things. An exhibition didactic panel or object panel are very different than a creative document, a sculpture, an artwork. Those are two separate things.
You would at least concede that you chose to remove the panel and keep the art piece, though, right?
What I said is that we took down the panel to have it replaced with one that talks about the art, walks somebody through the art piece, and then when art is deemed controversial, there is a process. That process did not happen. So those are two separate issues.
So but you did indeed say that you removed the panel because you thought it was an opinion piece, did you not? I mean, it's on the.
That's very,
dozens of
yes,
people
I did say
watching.
that.
Okay.
But then you're saying, you're using that same argument on why I didn't take down the art. There is a different type of process. I cannot single-handedly say that this art piece is A, B, C, or D. That is for the process. Once someone says that it is controversial, there is a process that goes into play.
So you're saying that the piece itself is not an opinion then? Because if it's an opinion, it would have been removed per your own words.
Clarification for your question, please. Can you reframe that in a different way so that
Okay,
I can
you-
understand?
You have said that you censored the panel because you
I did
thought
not
it was an
censor.
opinion. Did you not remove it because of its
Censoring,
contents?
removing it and having it replaced is not censorship.
Okay, then I assume that you are willing to come before this committee and you will have this puppet piece removed and replaced. Is that correct?
Are we talking about the panel or the puppet?
I'm talking,
Replaced. The panel is going to be replaced.
okay. And the puppet too, or no?
The puppet, we are going to have controversial.
Alderman Lopez, by the way. There are two Lopez's.
Oh, there's only one.
I continue to hear this issue with the burning flags and accountability. I just find the line of questioning outside completely of the topic in question. We have to already be here and again, in a subject matter expert that have failed even to call out Nazi salutes and call it an awkward gesture of in a time of enthusiasm. But here we have people continue to talk about a burning flag, and I'll be very clear. That is also a constitutional right. And I'm going to be clear. And I'm going to respond to anybody who continue to disrespect the commissioner on the process. Let's just stay online. Let's just stay on topic. But one more time, First Amendment rights, constitutional rights that are protected. I'm not going to continue to allow people of color to be disrespected for people who have an understanding of First Amendment rights.
All right.
Point of order, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
okay.
I literally said those are protected rights.
I know what you're saying.
It's, do we have to fund them? Byron, when
This
you
is about the process.
flag, we
people.
didn't have to fund that.
Okay.
We didn't have to fund it.
Okay, all right.
White
Stop it.
supremacists.
Stop it. Stop it.
You did.
Okay, Alderman Lawson. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're up. Yes.
White supremacists.
Who said that?
Get him out of here.
Who said that?
He did. Dicho Lopez just called.
Did you say that? You did.
I said
Then you
I
should be
said
out-
that continue to run the
Get out of here.
process. What is
Get
this
out of here.
then?
You should be out
What
of
is
here.
this? This is a joke.
You're a
This
joke.
is a joke.
You should be out of here.
You are a joke.
Okay,
You are a joke.
gotta go. You gotta go. You can't call anybody here a white sup, you gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. Sergeant at Arms, no. We're not gonna take that. We're not gonna stand for that. You gotta go. You gotta go.
And again,
You gotta go. You gotta go. You're not here, you're not gonna be here disrupting my meeting. You're not gonna yes, you did. You disrespected a colleague. You gotta go. Out. Get out of here. Get out. Get out. Get out. For calling him a white supremacist, that's why. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Yeah, we'll take a recess, people. Alderwoman Taylor.
Commissioner, is your computer hooked up to the screen where you could display?
No.
Does anybody have access to put it on the screen? Because first of all, our precinct question, I think people need to see it. We having a lot of conversation about some things that people have never seen. And so I want the community and my coworkers to be able to see
Okay,
it.
well, I'm sorry. I just assumed everybody was gonna look at it. Maybe I should have had a handout and we'll try to get them and pass them out to the people, so.
So, yeah, so with that being said, there are a couple of art pieces that I want to share with community members. And I'm not on the committee, but we gotta have a conversation about teaching each other about each other's culture. And so Alderman Hall put the picture up first, but I actually printed it. And if you see, this is a picture of Harold Washington, who was the first Black mayor of the
Direct-
city. He
direct-
built a
direct-
rainbow coalition.
Alderwoman Taylor,
Yes.
direct it to me, please.
I just want people to see the picture.
I'm-
So I'm assuming you
The
can see.
oldest guy in the council. I'm very familiar with that.
Absolutely. So imagine as a Black child, seeing the Black man who built a rainbow coalition to bring us this city together being displayed in an art exhibit like this. This was hurtful as a child, but I understood that this was art and this was that person's artistic expression. I have another picture called Getting Ready for the Hanging, which displays folks getting ready to hang you know who. Not to mention, there is a display there called The Dyke Show. This was at the Cultural Center. And so when we talk about offensive to who? It's teaching us about art as the expression of what we go through. Now, what I've appreciated about Alderwoman Silverstein is her inviting us to the Holocaust Museum. I think it's very important that we learn about each other's culture and what our struggle is. But I ain't interested in trauma bonding on the city's dime, because that's what we're doing right now. We're trauma bonding like one is worse than the other. It is not. And to be, what's sick to me is that we're beating up on the Black commissioner over something that she had no control of and was not even, hold on before you speak,
Alderwoman
was
Taylor,
not even in the
this,
seat.
this is about the process. I don't feel
Absolutely,
anybody's
but
beating
no,
up on her.
so now it's about the process.
Process.
This is about how a person is
About the
being
process,
treated.
a meeting about safety.
No,
and-
you say that. You say that, but we're looking at people attack this commissioner who is sitting up here. And don't get me wrong, I give commissioners a hard time doing budget. It's all over internet. I do it all the time. What I want us to do is have a productive conversation
That's
on
perfect.
how do we look at art. And the artist is here. I would have liked to hear her speak, or the folks from that who came up with it, than everybody in there experts. Because at the end of the day, there is a feeling of when I see shackles in a museum.
The
How
artist-
many of you all have been to the DuSable Museum?
The artist had a
African
right,
American
the
history.
artist had a right to sign up to speak for public comments.
You say that, Commissioner, but you allow people after the fact because Chairman Sposato, y'all allow people after the fact to come speak after people stand in line 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. George Blakemore here every damn day. I don't see y'all make no special
I sure did-
circumstances for him to allow him to speak,
Blakemore
but
got to
that's
speak.
neither here nor there. I'll finish my statement and then I'll move on.
Let's
The
stick to the
question
topic.
is,
The process.
Commissioner, is there a process, are you willing to put a process in place that allows us to look at a piece that you think is controversial or somebody feels is controversial and have a conversation with us all as a whole, not just elected officials, just us all. A, as a learning experience, and B, to say if something is just too controversial, should we put it up? And I'm against censoring art and artists. Because art is an expression of how you feel in a moment. I don't know what it's like to be a Holocaust survivor. I don't even know what it feels like to be a slave. But I see it, it's in my face, it's in the history books. And so we treading this fine line of censorship and allowing government, which ain't doing that well anyway. Because not only is Chicago in chaos, DC is in chaos, Dalton is in chaos. We're all in chaos because we won't do the one simple thing, and that's have the conversation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Art is not made for everybody to like it. Art is made to provide a comment. Art is made to say something that the artist believe that needs to be said. And in that vein, I also want to thank the artist that put the piece together, and I want to thank the Department of Cultural Affairs as well. I am speaking today as a council member, but I am also talking as a subject matter expert. I have a master's in theater, and I have been doing theater for most of my life. I have been doing puppet theater, mass theater, and I've traveled around the world doing theater. The puppets that are being displayed in the cultural center are part of a vast culture of puppetry. The style is used for protest art, which I think is incredibly important. And I think I have heard a lot of things in this hearing that I would love to respond to, but I know that we don't have time for that. I do have to say that the fact that we are sitting here questioning the process of how we select works of art, trying to figure out how people in council could potentially influence the process so that things that we don't like are not being portrayed, goes completely against the spirit of art itself. Puppet theater exists everywhere. I would encourage my colleagues also to look up this kind of art. Looking at Peru, for example, the Yuyashkani theater that did a lot of puppet and mask theater against the dictatorship in Peru. The Bread and Puppet Theater. There are countless groups in Latin America and Europe that do this work. And that's what we are seeing at the Cultural Center. This is not a one-time thing that was made to offend anybody. It was made to make a comment. And it would be very dangerous business. I completely agree with my colleague, David Moore, to bring to government the ability to decide what is worth of putting in the cultural center. And this idea that we should be regulating this after there is a process, because there is a process. There is a process, and we have been explained what the process is. The idea that we, as council members, we would have the power somehow to help regulate this process makes me think about book banning. We have a Chicago Public Library, and who decides which are the books that can be read at the public library? Are we going to go there and decide that there are books that are offensive to people and we cannot read them? Or at city council, that's a taxpayer funded space, right? The libraries are. or the floor of the city council where people can grab a mic and they can say hateful things. In the last few years that I have sat in my chair in city council, I have had to hear things that are deeply offensive. Are we going to tell people that they cannot say those things after they go through the process of being selected to speak? We don't get to regulate that. And I think that it would be way more helpful for us as elders to be working on things that can actually help our city. Again, I am incredibly thankful for the work that DK is doing. Thank you, Commissioner, so much. And thank you for everybody that is sitting here today providing testimony and expert testimony, because I think it's incredibly important now more than ever that we preserve the right to free speech and that we protect artists, because under authoritarian governments, artists are the first ones to be censored. Art is the first thing that is going to be censored and banned and punished. And I don't think that that is what we should be doing in Chicago. Thank you, Sheriff, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. So just a point of information, because it's something near and dear to me, there are many people fighting to get the Columbus statue back, me being one of them, but our calls, our complaints, or our grievances have fallen on deaf ears. You know, it's a complicated thing. But you bring up great points about all or nothing. What's it going to be? I mean, we seem to be picking and choosing the city now. This had nothing to do with the commissioner. I know how we've had private conversations about how we feel about long-term art, that all of a sudden was controversial. We had a monument and statue committee, and
I think that there's plenty of that there's lots of discussions that need to be had. I'll echo my colleague, Chair Taylor. I think what we're hearing today, and I think what we failed to speak out loud sometimes, is the need for discourse and conversation. I think that there are many voices in the city of Chicago that feel unheard and unseen. And as elected officials, we respond to those, and we have an obligation to do so. I would just encourage that this process move forward for this particular piece in this collection, this exhibition, so that the voices can be heard and let the process play out. I think that is, as you acknowledged earlier, missing piece in this at this point. And hope that we continue to have opportunities for people's voices to be heard, all voices, no matter.
Material of design and others that were part of the design history that had been left out. But as far as I know, no piece has been removed.
with the exception of the Columbus statue.
Cultural center, I'll say.
Yeah, I think that there's plenty of that there's lots of discussions that need to be had. I'll echo my colleague, Chair Taylor. I think what we're hearing today, and I think what we failed to speak out loud sometimes, is the need for discourse and conversation. I think that there are many voices in the city of Chicago that feel unheard and unseen. And as elected officials, we respond to those, and we have an obligation to do so. I would just encourage that this process move forward for this particular piece in this collection, this exhibition, so that the voices can be heard and let the process play out. I think that is, as you acknowledged earlier, missing piece in this at this point. And hope that we continue to have opportunities for people's voices to be heard, all voices, no matter what position you're taking. I think, and Chairman, to your credit for allowing the number of public speakers to be heard today, so that every viewpoint, people that came in time to register their public comment and who took the time out of their days, it does mean a lot. It's not nothing to come before a body like this and speak. So that's all I've got. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, thank you to all those who came today.
Thank you, Alderman Lee. Alderman Lopez, before a wrap, but Alderwoman Silverstein.
Thank you, Chairman, and I want to just, not reiterate what everyone has talked about, but I am glad to hear, Commissioner, that I think we have some movement on some things that we need to address. And hopefully we're never going to be in this predicament again. I find it interesting, but I want to just get to something right quick. If we can have the panel of memberships provided through the chair, as well as any of their meeting minutes and how many panels with associated revenues provided to this committee, I would appreciate it. As somebody who has sat in, not on this committee ever, but has sat on both budget and finance, I think it's important to remember something, is that I'm sitting here listening, and I think I've only appeared here a few times at this committee. You know, I've had the great pleasure of knowing your department in both its forms for nearly 20 years. And I remind people that in 1999, I worked for a department at that time called Special Events, way before the consolidation of the two departments, which eventually became known as Cultural Affairs and Special Events. So I'm very familiar with mindset and mentality of the department and its belief that it's sometimes an independent department in and of itself. And I heard some of that today from folks speaking and talking and those that are contracted as part of our arts program. But I just want to make sure we're all clear. This book, the budget, this book gives us the authority to have these questions today. The fact that this body appropriates $72.9 million for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events so that we can achieve the mission of providing permanent events, providing cultural attractions, and for maintaining public art and spaces, gives us the authority and ability to question what's going on. And I think there have been some breakdowns, but I think it's important for everyone behind me in this box to understand that when we have you here, and that when you are asked a question, to obfuscate and deflect is not right. Because the other committees that I serve on, where we normally hear from you, are budget and finance. And I know I would never have been given responses like I heard today at budget. At budget, everyone is more collaborative, everyone is nicer, everyone is explaining the issues and answering us and not basically daring us, telling us we will not be bullied. Well, this body as a whole will not be intimidated by our underlings, by our departments who don't want to answer questions. We have a right to ask these questions and to make sure that when 28 individuals who represent 1.5 million people object to something, somebody better damn well be listening to us. And that brings me to what my colleague from the 41st Ward mentioned. That we could talk about art, we could talk about process, and I'm looking forward to that because we have another hearing immediately after this on process and what's coming up next. But let me take everyone back for a moment. July 24th, 2020. And I don't know who was on the phone a minute ago, but let me say what was said at that time. It's coming down because of the activism that has led to this moment by Columbus. Activism right now from the Jewish community, from everyday Chicagoans, and from 28 wards are demanding this come down. That activism cannot be extinguished simply because individuals are here yelling at us, trying to change topics, to divert our attention from what's going on. There are processes that we have never lived up to. There are hypocrisies that we are trying to enshrine in law right now. And it's beyond reprehensible, Chairman. DCASE has the opportunity to do wonderful things. I've seen it. We've brought Taste of Chicago to Englewood, as my colleagues will note. There he is. He's had it twice in his ward, in Chicago Lawn. Marquette Park, Taste of Chicago. Relax, it's a good thing. We have the opportunity to do great things. But if we're not listening and we're not adapting in a rate that we need to, and if we're forgetting who our real partners are, the ones who are making sure that the special events tax and the hotel motel tax get to where you need to be, where the additional $28.6 million in grant money gets to so that you can put it into the cultural initiatives and into the visual arts department gets to be, I'm sure we're going to have a very different discussion this year. when it comes to budget. Maybe even sooner. So I want to make sure, Commissioner, that despite the theatrics of the day with some of our colleagues, that we are being respectful and adhering to the mission of providing public spaces for artwork that can achieve both that mission, but isn't outright offensive to whole communities. Over half the city of Chicago's elected officials found this offensive. And I believe that you have the authority to remove that piece right now if you wanted to. Am I correct?
To defer to legal. I don't know if I have I mean, do I? Is it in the ordinance? I mean, here, do you know?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Yes, the commissioner has the ordinance to put up artwork as well as take it down, but with the process.
Alderman,
I-
respectfully, that's not why we're here. We're here to discuss the process, okay?
This is the process, Nick.
Okay.
And I'm
The
asking,
process
is
is
the
the-
process allow for her to take it down?
We went over the process. I don't know how many times she explained it to us with the committee and everything, so that could be something we could talk about with her in a private meeting about how to figure this out. If it's gonna
Fine,
come
then I
down.
have just a few quick follow-up questions, Chairman, to make this easy for you. How many pieces has the panel rejected for the Cultural Center through this panel of artists?
I'll give that, we'll, get that information to you through the chair.
Thank you. Along with who the artists are and at the various venues. When it comes to engagement with the community, with the Jewish community in particular, who are your engagement partners?
Some of them are in the box, the curator, but we can get a full list to you through the
Thank you.
chair.
If you could provide through the chair a full list of all your community partners. How many artists how many Jewish artists are part of the pre-qualified list for 2024, 2025?
We will get that information to you through the chair.
Thank you. And then lastly, I think it was asked, but I didn't hear if it was actually provided through the chair, if it was a recommendation. But if you could provide through the chair, did the city of Chicago fund this exhibit or just house the exhibit?
We paid for the installation of the exhibit, so we're not the fiscal sponsors of the exhibition.
Is one of our delegate agencies a fiscal sponsor of this?
No, they're not. It's the Chicago Puppet Theater.
And does the Chicago Puppet Theater, because I didn't see them in this book, are they in any way, shape, or form in receipt of city grants or art grants?
I'm not sure of that.
If you could provide that through the chair, if they are in fact recipients. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. And finally, to wrap, Alderwoman Silverstein.
Thank you, Chairman, for holding this meeting today, and to the Commissioner for being here. There's just a couple of things that I wanted to add. I know that there was mention of the Harold Washington exhibit. I just wanted to clarify to everybody that that was in the Art Institute. It was not in a taxpayer-funded city building. I also want to say that when these puppets were paraded around during the DNC in the protest, you did not hear one word from me about it being offensive, because that, I believe, was their First Amendment right. But when it goes into a taxpayer-funded Chicago building, I think we have crossed the line. I think that that puppet exhibit is hateful, and that it needs to come down immediately. And I look forward to having continued conversations with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, thank you for coming out. Thank you for your public comment. Thank most of you for your civility.